Welcome to The Explainer, where we try to make complex stories make sense. Today, we're zeroing in on the life of a man named Muhammad, specifically the moments leading right up to the very first divine revelation.
So to really get a handle on the man, you've got to understand the world he lived in. We're starting in pre-Islamic Mecca. The sacred Kaaba is being rebuilt. And listen to this, a man who would later become one of Muhammad's biggest enemies, Abu Jahl, is the one saying, hey, make sure the money you give is pure. No cheating, no interest, no shady dealings. I mean, that tells you something, right? Even his future adversaries had this deep-seated idea that when you're dealing with God, things have to be pure.
Okay, so into this world steps Muhammad. And you've got to understand, long before any talk of prophecy, this guy was already a local legend. Not for miracles or anything like that, but for his character. He was known for his incredible wisdom and his rock-solid integrity.
So picture this. During that same reconstruction of the Kaaba, a huge crisis breaks out. It's all about the sacred black stone. It needs to be put back in the wall, and every single tribal leader wants the honor of doing it. I mean, this wasn't just a small disagreement. Tensions got so bad that Mecca was literally on the verge of a full-blown, bloody civil war.
And this is where we see his genius for bringing people together. His solution, it was so simple but absolutely brilliant. He just lays out a cloth, puts the stone in the middle, and has each leader grab a corner. They all lift it together, sharing the honor. And just like that, with one simple, elegant move, he stops a war before it can start. You can see why his reputation as the city's go-to problem solver was totally sealed after this.
All right, that story showed us his sharp mind, right? But this next one, this reveals something deeper. It's not just about being smart. It's about his incredible ability to inspire real love and fierce loyalty.
So let me tell you about Zayd. His story is heartbreaking. He's from a noble family, but he gets kidnapped as a kid and sold into slavery, eventually ending up in Muhammad's household. For years, his dad is just searching frantically. And then one day, he finds him. He shows up in Mecca with a ton of money, ready to pay whatever it takes to get his son back.
But Muhammad does something nobody saw coming. He flat out refuses the ransom money. Instead, he turns to Zayd and says, "The choice is yours." Now, think about that. According to the laws back then, Zayd was his property, but Muhammad gives him something priceless, the freedom to actually choose his own destiny.
So Zayd is standing there with this, well, it seems like an impossible choice, but also a really easy one, right? On one side, he can go home. He gets his family back, his freedom, his noble status, everything. On the other side, he stays a slave in a strange land. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer.
And yet, Zayd's answer is absolutely stunning. Without a moment's hesitation, he chooses to stay. He says he could never choose anyone over Muhammad. The kindness he'd been shown had created this bond that was, for him, stronger than blood. Can you imagine how his own father must have felt, just standing there, completely speechless?
Muhammad is so moved by this incredible display of loyalty. He doesn't just say, okay, you can stay. He takes Zayd right to the Kaaba, in front of everyone, grants him his freedom, and then adopts him as his own son. Now, these stories are so important because they show us the man before the prophet. This character, this foundation of integrity and deep compassion, is the bedrock for everything that's about to happen next, as he starts to experience things that are, well, not of this world.
So as he gets closer to 40, you start to see a shift. Muhammad begins to pull away, to seek out solitude. He's spending more and more time alone in meditation. And that's when strange things start to happen.
And look, this wasn't like a switch was flipped overnight. This was a process. For 6 whole months, this spiritual transformation was building up. You could almost call it a kind of training, getting him ready, mentally, spiritually, for the massive event that was just around the corner.
He'd have these incredibly vivid dreams at night, and then the next day they would come true, just as clear as daylight. Imagine walking alone and hearing rocks and stones greet you with salam, with peace. His reality was literally starting to shift. It was like the world was preparing him for a direct line to the divine.
And then it happens. One night, during the month of Ramadan, he's meditating, all alone in the total darkness of this mountain cave, and the moment finally arrives.
Out of nowhere, an angelic being appears right in front of him, and it gives him one single powerful command.
And Muhammad, who, remember, couldn't read or write, he was unlettered. He just responds with the simple, honest truth. He says, "I can't read."
So the angel grabs him and squeezes him with this incredible force, so hard he thinks he's going to pass out. And this happens 3 separate times, each time the same command, recite. This was no dream, this was a terrifying, very real physical encounter.
And after that third squeeze, the angel finally delivers the words, the very first verses of what would later become the Quran. And these words were like nothing he'd ever heard before. They spoke of creation, of knowledge, of the pen, of God.
He is absolutely terrified. His heart is just pounding in his chest. He bolts from the cave and runs down the mountain, heading straight for the one person he can trust, his wife, Khadijah.
And think about this. His first words aren't some grand prophetic announcement. They're a plea, born out of pure human terror. Cover me up! Cover me up! He's shaking, he's cold, and all he wants is the comfort of the person he trusts most in the entire world.
And Khadijah's reaction here, it's just incredible. She doesn't panic, she doesn't freak out, she just calms him down. And she doesn't try to dissect the supernatural stuff. Instead, she grounds the whole experience in who he is. She says, basically, listen, God would never, ever humiliate you. You're too good of a person.
So then, Khadijah takes him to see her cousin, Waraka. Now this guy is old, and he's wise. He knows the ancient scriptures, the Jewish and Christian texts. Waraka listens to the whole story, and he identifies the angel with a very specific title, the Nemus. And Waraka confirms it. He says, that's him. That's the same great archangel who brought the revelation to Moses. But then he gives this really sobering warning. He says that, just like all the prophets before him, Muhammad's own people would eventually turn on him and drive him out. And with that, this terrifying private experience was now officially linked to this long, ancient chain of prophecy.
So that's where we leave it, this incredibly pivotal moment. He's got a terrified man, a wise wife, and this ancient prophecy has just been confirmed. The first verses are here, the experience is real. But this is only the beginning, right? And it leaves us with the biggest question of all. What happens next? What happens when a private revelation has to become a public message?